This is Authenticated, the Diecast Collectors podcast from Lionel Racing. We are back. Authenticated episode 22 in your eardrums once again. Excited to recap all the action at Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the Grand Prix circuit, the road course there at Indianapolis. It was a wild weekend, a crazy finish in the Cup Series race, and just a lot of news going on in the NASCAR world as well. And we're going to touch on all that, plus some really exciting diecast things coming your way here really soon, and lots of other exciting. I told myself I was not going to use exciting and cool too much in the show tonight. I think I've used both of those multiple times already in this intro, so I personally give myself an F for today's show, and we're only 1 minute and 7 seconds into it, so can only go one direction from here. So we are excited and cool and excitedly cool to bring this show to you here today. Matt Kentfield here leading you through another episode, and Alex Pullman joining us as well. And what did you think of that race in Indianapolis on Sunday?
I thought it was, a crap show.
Whoa.
Yeah, well, I would have used another word.
Such vulgar language.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
did they forget how to turn in turn one? I swear that one restart reminded me of playing NASCAR Heat, where I'd have to start in the rear of the field and just drive my way up through the field through turn one.
Yeah, but you didn't get paid several $100,000 or millions of dollars like those guys, most of those do, to drive that way. So you were at least doing it the smart way, and you could just hit the reset button and just go back over. You don't have to spend all week trying to fix your stuff.
Right.
So you just heard from Thomas Du Bois as well, and Thomas, it was the road course. You were been around. These two whippersnappers in our office weren't really around to see the oval track, in its heyday at Indianapolis. Don't look at me like that, Alex. You were a teenager the last time they raced on the oval there.
What? No.
Your opinion. Indianapolis road course or Indianapolis oval?
I got to go road course. I mean, most fans are probably going to disagree with me on that, but it's more exciting. It keeps them close. It keeps them in, I don't know, it keeps it look at the drama we're talking about this morning. On Indy, there was guys winning, by several seconds. Now, maybe this new car will help that. I would like to see them race on Indy in this new car to see if that changes anything. I would like to see that. Mm-hmm. But the road course is what it is. I mean, it creates drama. I mean, like Alex mentioned, turn one was just, it was even less than the ARCA series. I mean, they were all the Cup guys just went barreling in and just hitting each other. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. All race long, you can't just say, well, lap one, we were just confused.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And lap one, you're not hot yet. So I don't know. It was interesting. But I would like to see them race on Indy in this new car to see if it changes anything. But I kind of like the road courses a little bit.
I do too. It does make it more interesting because everything else, people would win by like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Carlene Marginian, we have not yet heard from you on this topic. What is your thought? Road course or oval track at Indy?
I've never watched the oval at Indy, so
I was right. So yeah.
Okay, you were right about her.
You couldn't put Alex in that category though. But I personally liked Indy. Indy, I got to go last year, and it was one of the first tracks I got to see. And after all the chaos that ensued last year Cup race, I was already kind of anticipating that same kind of chaos was going to happen, and it did not let me down.
Not at all. The race weekend in general did not let anybody down, unless you're a fan of somebody who ended up, destroyed or, otherwise just had a bad day, which there was plenty of those guys too. We'll recap more of what happened in Indianapolis coming up next on Authenticated. Indianapolis is the mecca of motorsports, and with the NASCAR Cup Series and NASCAR Xfinity Series competing on the IMS road course this past weekend, plus the Truck Series at Indianapolis Raceway Park or O'Reilly Raceway Park or Lucas Oil Raceway Park, whatever iteration they are currently over there at the short track, about 20 minutes or so from IMS. All three NASCAR series were in the Circle City this past weekend, and it was a wild one for sure. Tyler Reddick picking up his second NASCAR Cup Series win of the season, both coming at road courses. Of course, winning at Road America on the 4th of July weekend. Backed it up with a pretty strong performance there towards the end of the race. And but as strong as he was, I think he led the last 25 laps or something like that. Certainly had to earn it, didn't he, Alex?
Yes, he did.
That Care to elaborate a little bit, or
Many words.
I don't know where you want me to go
I didn't set you up very good
Yeah.
there. Okay, let's talk about that last lap, or on the overtime restart. Okay.
Oh, you're just gonna throw me right into the fire.
We're gonna go
Here
right
we
after.
go.
Well, I mean, let's face it. That's what everybody's going to be talking. There's two moments in that race I think everybody's going to be talking about: the overtime restart and the Kyle Larson Ty Dillon incident.
Oh, that was horrible.
We can touch on that in a little bit too, but we want to focus mostly on that last, 2-lap sprint, that last green flag run in overtime. What happened going into turn one? As you're watching it, what are you thinking?
Well, first of all, I was happy to bunch them back up because, even though I get to make the race winning diecast, I wanted to see them bunch back up and see who could, battle Reddick for the win. And then that happened. And then everybody, it's chaos down here, Tom, as they went into turn one and everybody started wrecking, and Ross Chastain decided he wanted to go off to this other road, and he was battling, even though I love Ross Chastain. I knew he wasn't legal, and that even though he was battling Reddick, it was a whole thing. It was just chaos. Chaos is the word to describe that last lap. And yes, I was happy for Reddick because, with all the press and the news with him leaving in 2024, going to 2311, he is backing up the fact that he is trying to win them a championship, or at least put him in championship contention over at RCR.
I have my personal opinions, but I'll open it up to the floor. Going into turn one on that restart, was the one car's plan to go off track into their little access road, or was he, as he says, forced to make that move?
He was forced.
100% went straight. Didn't even slow down nor make a turn. You watch the replay. His car didn't even make a juke to turn right. Straight, fast through there. If I were Cindric or Tyler Reddick, I would have punted him as soon as he come across that way. I would have just moved him.
Right.
I'd have been like,
He
move.
waited.
Where? Where did he wait?
Before he came into traffic.
No, but
No.
you
He had to slow down to make that sharp left.
You can't go from, I don't even know where he
That's slowing down.
restarted, but it was not on the front row, correct?
No,
right.
it was not.
And
He went from 8th to first.
Right. You can't
He wasn't
come
first.
out. No, he was right
He
on the
came
back
first.
bumper of.
Yeah.
He actually was.
He
So
came out first.
I have a hard time. I don't know. I am not a Ross Chastain super fan, as Alex, who's sitting across from me, in her Ross Chastain t-shirt. It's and I know you'd get tired of me picking on you, but it seems like everybody, whoever the hot driver is, that's going to be the hot subject on our podcast, you're wearing their t-shirt. Whether it's
Purposely.
whether it's planned or not, the racing gods of irony are very apparent in this room right
I
now.
literally put this shirt on this morning because I knew we were going to talk about this.
Fair. So I kind of believe the same thing. I think Ross said, this is going to be my chance to win the race. And if it doesn't work out, he's plenty good with the playoffs, right? He's not in any danger of not making the top 16. Like some of those guys that do have just one win might not have made that chance or taken that chance. He knows he's good. Give the fans a thrill, right? Give them a shot.
Let's give it a go.
Right.
I mean, listen, let's give it a go. That's what he
Haters
did.
gonna hate.
Okay, well, general question, because I don't know. What is the penalty for taking that lane? Because some people said there was none, and then some people said you had to stop.
It's a gray area.
Yes.
You had to be in the driver's
So
meeting.
wouldn't
No one knows.
if you're racing for the win, honestly, why not?
Well,
Because that was a big thing on Twitter after the fact, is NASCAR probably needs to address this going into next year if it's on the schedule
Absolutely.
on the road course, because, I'm going to get hate again. If that had been Chase Elliott, I'd be like, it's cool. You go ahead. You fine.
You're good, bro.
Yeah, you good. We'll give you another win. It's cool. It's fine. But
wow.
No.
How bitter are you?
It's hard to say, but like I
No,
said,
I'm just
at
saying-
least make attempt. If he had attempted the turn and act like he got shoved off,
well,
didn't
and
even
then-
attempt. Him or Austin Dillon just straight went through.
Well, and
I
I
think
think
Austin
that-
saw him going I'm doing it too.
Right. Yeah.
Why not?
I have to go back and watch it though, because I feel like at that same time, that's when that whole bottleneck incident happened where Blaney's actually being pushed by AJ through that first turn.
Yeah.
So it's either you're going to destroy your car or you're going to take the access road.
No, Ross just don't want to hit the brake. He doesn't want
That's
to.
fine.
He doesn't.
YOLO.
He wasn't the only one who didn't want to hit the brakes in that race.
He just doesn't want to hit the brake. Right. He'll run you over to move you out of the way. He'll bump you out of move you out of the way.
Weren't you the one who said you'd wreck your mother for your first win?
For my first win.
Yes, not for your third.
Yeah, not for my third, or I'm in 12th going for first.
Right.
Well, he's already been the most hated guy out there, so I mean, might as well.
There's a reason why.
Yeah, I just like that for both of Reddick's wins, he's had to like legitimately battle someone for it. Like he had Elliott on his back bumper at Road America. Now you've got Ross who came out of nowhere. Like the stress that you're feeling for both those wins is so high.
And didn't Chase Elliott end up finishing second again behind him?
Not this week.
No. Cindric did. You're right.
But yeah, you're right though.
Tall boy.
It was, and even after that whole little melee, and once kind of Ross left his position, I guess you can say, AJ and Chase were still, or not Chase, AJ and Cindric were still right there. They almost went bumper to bumper to bumper there with about one lap to go, and then eventually Tyler kind of pulled away down on that last lap. It was a wild finish, and we'll stay on your boy Ross Chastain. Okay. I've been in the motorsports media. I've asked a lot of hard hitting questions to a lot of different people and things like that, and you got to get the quote that you're looking for sometimes, right? And as a journalist, you really shouldn't be, but no matter what, you're going to be. But here it is. I think this is the third or fourth straight podcast we've had since NBC took over the NASCAR broadcast. We are talking about one of their announcers trying to get under the skin of Ross Chastain, or whatever they're trying to do. And I'll let everybody else kind of see. But I don't know, maybe I was the only one who was cringing at that whole time when Dave Burns is trying to get Ross Chastain to basically fess up that he was trying to cheat. Basically trying to say, go ahead, just admit you were wrong, jerk. That's basically what I felt like Dave was trying to lead him towards. Did anybody else kind of feel that same way listening to it?
Exactly what he was trying to do. And the face that Ross gave him, I mean, it was like, dude, really?
The fact that he asked him to explain what he was talking about was like the highlight of the whole thing.
Care to explain that? I mean,
which is good on Ross's part, because I think we talked about it last time on one of his most recent interviews on NBC when they kept pressing him about his aggression on the racetrack, and finally
Parker at Nashville.
Oh, it was a bunch of times.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was even more recent than that.
It was to Kim that happened.
Yeah, so they were just trying. I think Ross even said something like, I know you're trying to push this narrative, but that's not the case. Whatever the subject was, but he even mentioned that, like, I know you're trying to push this, but that's not what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think also it furthers, people... There's more money in the TV contracts than there is in anywhere else. The money goes to the racetracks, the money goes to the race teams, and everything like that. TV is what fuels NASCAR. Without TV, there is no NASCAR as we know it. Like, there's not the right amount of money. There's not the tracks getting, having races and things like that.
There is, but there's also competence, and they haven't had a lot of that lately.
Whoa, we're gonna just.
I'm just saying, because
she was getting in Twitter fights, so I would.
All I'm saying is, I've said this before. You've had Tony Stewart's of the world. You've had Kyle Busch's. They're just more aggressive when interviewed about it. And Ross is just maybe a little on the nicer side when it comes to that stuff. But stop trying to make him the enemy. Get a new narrative. Like, I know he's in spats week in and week out with different people. He's aggressive through the field, but get a new storyline. Stop trying to make him the enemy every single week.
Let me ask you this. Is there a reason they're making him the enemy? Because he's
for ratings.
Well, but what I'm saying is, if Ross puts himself in a position to have to answer those questions every week, maybe it's not so much on NBC trying to get to the answer. If he just went through a 500-mile race, didn't touch a soul, and maybe finished fourth, are they asking these questions?
Well, they did the same thing on Saturday, because he raced in the Xfinity race, and they made the comment, like, typical Ross, bumping and banging, and I was like, it's every race. It's not anything new.
Well, it's honestly, they're saying it because it does make TV, but he's given himself. If it was Dale Sr. out here, they'd be saying the same thing about him most likely. But the difference is, and I'm not comparing him to Dale Sr., so do not think that. But I'm just saying he is aggressive.
Right.
Well, and the problem is he hasn't, in my opinion, earned the respect yet to be aggressive. so soon. Like, he's being aggressive. He's aggressive, but he blocks. But I mean, think about it. He's made Kyle Busch mad, Martin Truex, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin. Those are the first few off the top of my head I can think of where he's blocked them and punted them. AJ Allmendinger, your boy, punted him for the win. But I'm just saying, he's done what he's done to get wins.
Right.
Well,
there's a point where you got to just be a little bit more respectful. Now, like I said, we're in that realm where everybody's going to have a different opinion.
Right.
and I'm kind of wondering too if they're wanting to see if he'll give a reaction like a Kyle Busch, where Kyle, usually just gets an attitude and he's very like short, very one answer kind of things. I'm wondering if that's what they're trying to do. But,
He should.
But
It'd probably be better for him. Instead, he's cowarding down and it's like, oh, I didn't mean to. I deserve it.
Yeah.
Payback's in a minute. I'd be like, look, he was in my way. Yes, I moved him. Or yes, I went for the win. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't make the turn, so I went for the win. But he played, well, I don't explain to me what you mean. I'm not quite sure.
Right.
No, I didn't. He's playing it down like, I'm owed that. And it's just kind of, you're aggressive, but yet you're
I know, I think
you're downplaying it. And
the first couple interviews were like that, other than like this past weekend with the whole access road thing. But I think he's starting to go, yep, yeah, that's payback. Is when they asked about the Denny thing? Oh, is that your payback from Denny? Well, I guess it'll happen.
I wonder how much of that, though,
He's down.
Trackhouse is like, hey, you need to act a certain way and
Pump
the
the
cameras.
brakes. Don't go too crazy or anything like that. But I also wonder, when you talk about Dale Sr. and even Kyle Busch when he was younger, not so much in in his JGR days, but certainly when he was in his Roush and Hendrick days long ago, it was pre-social media, really, especially Dale Sr. and everything. There were, when you rattle a guy's cage or something like that, there's no outlet for fans or anyone else to bitch and moan or praise or complain or anything like that, that TV networks can be like, okay, this is our story, because there are millions of tweets and there's millions of, interactions and things like that, people complaining about this guy or, praising this guy. So that's who we need to talk about. Thinking of the Dale Sr. stuff, it happened on Sunday. It would hit a newspaper probably on Tuesday, and that was the only kind of media that there was to find out what was going on.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to wait 7 days from the last race for the next one, and then it's kind of old news at that point. Now we're in this 24/7, 365 news cycle that we're on social media. We all are. And whatever the hot topics are, that's what we're talking about on this podcast. That's what we're talking about, around the water cooler, around the office. That's what everybody who's listening to the show is talking about in their office or in their, their dorm room apartments with their buddies at the bar, whatever it is, because that stuff happens 24/7, 365. So I think also, NBC and any network is seeing, okay, people are talking about Ross, so we're going to talk about Ross. And until that dies down, then they probably will find the next thing to do. And,
Well, see, there were other stories though going on, and they kind of focused on that. Like there was a whole feud with Blaney and Suarez, and they didn't hugely elaborate on it because, they just dumped him for no reason after the race ended. But,
And I didn't watch the post-race stuff on Peacock after it left NBC. But apparently, from what I saw, Daniel Suarez tweeted something at Dale Jarrett saying that, hey, Dale Jarrett, whatever you said was wrong. Here's what really happened.
Yep.
So it kind of stinks that it has to come down to somebody going on Twitter to correct one of the TV analysts or something like that. It's just the way it is, I guess, these days.
Yeah.
But like I said, I didn't see what they were talking about or what Dale Jarrett even said. So I don't know who ended up being right in that scenario.
I mean, I just remember AJ pushing Blaney because Blaney had spun in front of him, so I don't know where the whole Suarez-Blaney thing even happened.
Right. Suarez hit him in turn one.
But he
just kind of started the whole thing.
On that overtime restart. Mm-hmm. Look, they were 3-4 wide.
Yeah.
I mean, they were trying to cram 30
Suarez
cars.
was the one who came in first, I think, and came in too fast and did not care.
Kind of like
hit
the
him
cue ball.
So that's what made Blaney
And pushed
spin,
Blaney
and then
wide.
AJ ended up having to push him through. That's why he got...
Suarez is the one who pushed him into AJ, pushed him wide and made him go wide. That's why he was mad at Suarez, I think. But
somebody was going to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's what you want to see, though. You don't want to see somebody just pull away and be like, okay, bye.
Well, didn't you have like Logano was bulldozing into people too? Like they didn't really talk about that either. It was just, I saw it on Twitter, honestly.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Well, and they come up with kind of, I don't know if you saw this, but they focus on some random things. Like they thought Reddick was having the munchies after the race, that he partook in his sponsorship a little too much.
Oh.
And
Wow.
they said that he was
aggressive.
They actually, like, that was a whole thing on social. Was like, oh yeah, about the sponsorship.
Just on social. I thought you're not talking to NBC was talking this way.
I just saw it on Twitter. There was like some people, like some heavy hitting reporters who were saying, I wonder if they need to like look into sponsorships with drivers if this is the case. I'm like, this is what you're focusing on?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the dude was hungry. Like, I saw the clips of him munching on, I don't even know what he was eating. It looked like a sandwich or something. Yeah, that's what it kind of looked like. It looked like just a piece of bread. But, it was not NBC's banner race by any means, because then they're focusing on AJ while they got the in-car camera on him late in the race. And, like, I thought I was witnessing a murder. Like, I literally was waiting for him just to close his eyes and the car just veer off to the side of the road.
I'll be honest, I think that if he had his cool suit working and he had water, he would have been more in contention.
Right.
But, I mean, I agree. Like, watching him blink, I mean, he looked so tired.
Oh, yeah.
He looked terrible. And he said
almost
that
hit Tyler Reddick in the caution. Did you see him swerving his tires?
Yeah,
He about hit him. I think he's just not.
But did you see the post race where he like just literally fell out of the car?
And that was the second part. They kept the camera on him. I think it was his wife putting ice on his neck or something like that.
A PR girl at Colleague. I mean, they literally had to like strip him down. Kind of like when Casey won at Indy, where he was so hot.
Right.
They have to. I mean, it was terrible. I don't know what they were doing.
But you had Chris Buescher, who was on fire and totally fine. So go focus on him and that.
Right.
Yeah, Chris Buescher's looking like he's sitting on the wall like, I got
dude's covered in fire extinguisher.
Like, and we still finished.
Like, I still prefer NBC's TV presentation over Fox's. That's just my opinion. I feel like I get talked to on a more intellectual level, and that's not setting the bar very high, but it's a little bit higher than the Fox bar. But those are the kind of things that really kind of get under people's skin, and you see it on social media, and it kind of bothered me a little bit. That's why I want to talk a little bit, just make sure I wasn't the only one that kind of felt a little cringy watching some of this stuff.
To your point, I mean, knowing AJ, I mean, that's terrible. Like,
right.
It's
Well, and I didn't want to make it sound like we were, I was picking on Dave Burns by talking about his Ross thing, because Dave is a great pit reporter, has been for a long time, a friend of Lionel. I mean, he's really good at what he does. It was just the scenario of this one line of questioning that was a little like, oh boy, where are we going with this? And but all in all, it's not to take away from anything that Tyler Reddick did, and that's 2 wins on road courses.
Yep.
And we were kind of used to Chase Elliott winning all the road course races for a while, and now he's 2 for 2 in the last little bit. Is this kind of the changing of the guard in the road course aspect here?
I don't know if he's going to bring that 3 Cheese Salutes car to another road course, because I mean, that thing is on a roll.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting that he ran that 3 Cheese Salutes car when they have a primary 3 Cheese car. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of interesting. I don't know if in your conversations with RCR of why they were bringing the Stars and Stripes car back after the 4th of July made sense why they would run that car, right? And
I didn't know that they were bringing that particular one back, but maybe they found so much success at Road America with it that they were like, well, we'll bring it in.
Gonna say, just wipe it down and hold it for the next road.
They'll bring it back to Watkins Glen.
The whole scenario of I wore those socks when I won last. Let's do it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like the Chase Elliott mustache.
Oh God.
That's right. And watching Tyler Reddick go to victory lane and actually interact with a smiling Richard Childress, which is not what I expected. I kind of expected them to either stay apart from one another, or RC to grab him by the back of the neck, be like, "Thanks for winning, but you're still a jerk," kind of deal. I didn't really know what was going to happen there, but they were all smiles and giddy and stuff like that. So.
Well, he made a quote after the race about how like the Harvick situation down compared to this one.
Right.
And I found it interesting because of everything that was happening. I thought the focus would just be all happy. But the fact that Richard Childress kind of delved into it a little bit, I thought that was an interesting take.
He confirmed that he was coming back next year.
Yeah.
So that was because that was up in the air like, oh yeah, we don't know if the changing will happen next year.
Because you got Austin Hill coming to Michigan.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They just announced that Austin Hill would make his Cup debut at Michigan this coming weekend in a 33, which, in our conversations with the race team, now that it's out, we knew that was coming around for a long time, well before the 8 car, was going to be losing its driver. So the timing of it is, to those who, are only getting their news from social media and stuff like that, the vast majority of folks might think, okay, this is for sure the changing of the guard, right? The 8 cars coming empty. And maybe it is. I will say, hand on a Bible right now, we have no clue who's going to be in the 8 car in 2024. So don't be thinking we're going to try to drop any bombs. I know it's MLB trade deadline day, so I keep refreshing my Twitter to see who my Red Sox are going to gain and lose. But, we're not breaking any news here with who's going to be in that 8 car. But the timing of it is certainly, kind of, it's a discussion topic for sure because...
and the fact that Austin Hill and Tyler Reddick are your 2 drivers at RCR who are having the most success.
Right, right. And, well, we know the 3 car is not going to change drivers.
Well, yeah. That's kind of,
But
Tyler Dillon's going in. Tyler Dillon.
Ty Dillon.
Tyler Dillon.
Tyrone.
Yeah, I don't see that, but certainly it could happen. But we knew with that Tyler Hill, Austin Hill coming in. Everybody's going to be Tyler.
I started it.
Thanks, Tyler Du Bois over there. So do we think all is well now in that 8 car camp? Now that he they did say he's coming back, are they just, like they said all along, focused on winning and championship? Or is there still going to be a little bit of animosity for the next, 16 months or whatever it is until the end of the season in 2023?
He can win them a championship or not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we'll just see. I mean, obviously 2020, I think they're obviously, I feel like they're like thrown off by it and we're upset.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to let him finish. It's all about sponsors and all that. So I think depending on how he does, and then if he does good, it depends on how for this year. What will the next year hold for sponsors and all that?
Yeah,
that's gonna be the big question. If sponsors come in and say, "Well, we want this person in the car," they might move him on 2023. But who knows? But I think this year, look, he's proven that he wants to be there still. I think for now, he wants to win. He wants to win races. Hey, he did what he did to watch out for himself. I mean, it's so funny to watch people bash him and say like RCR was good to him and all this other stuff. I get it, but at the end of the day, if someone come to you and offered you a great job opportunity,
it's a business,
right? Payment, you would be lying. You would say, "Well, yeah, I've been here 26 years." But if some company said, "Hey, listen, you can do this, this, and this. I'm going to pay you this, and this is all the guarantees, and it's better than what I got now," and be like, "Okay,
right,
love you, Lionel. I've been here 26 years."
Right,
Howard, if you're listening to this, I still love Lionel. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you would be kidding yourself. For all these people who are saying he should not show his loyalty. Like, the loyal should have been, if they were loyal to him, they should have signed a big old contract.
And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to, knowing that his contract is up in 2023. If there hadn't already been some discussions about, renewing that or, signing a long-term deal or something like that, I don't blame Tyler because, there's plenty of money. I don't know, but I'm assuming that TRD Toyota, the Joe Gibbs Racing, tie-in with 2311 Racing, there's probably more money being thrown around by that camp than there is in Richard Childress Racing Camp. Just
that's what I would say. That's what I would say. Yeah, 100%.
Look, I don't know their books. I'm just assuming. So it had to be a pretty sweet deal. Like you said, if someone's going to come and tell you, Thomas, if we're going to pay you $10 million a year to work 36 days a year versus what you do right now, you're going to take that job. It's the same thing, and maybe have some job security too. If there's a 5, I don't know if they've even announced what Tyler Reddick's contract is, or if they've announced it. Think so. It's probably not a 1 year by year thing. You know what I mean? It's probably a longer term deal. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you try to take that security and stuff like that? So look, he's got a family now. He's got a little boy. Saw him in Victory Lane, who's almost as tall as Tyler is at like 2 years old. But when you've got a family to think about, you've got to do what's, you might think a little bit differently than you did before that. You know what I mean? And there's plenty of money. I don't think Tyler Reddick is, living in some single wide trailer. No, working at, driving for RCR, you know what I mean? Like he's getting paid pretty handsomely right now, but everybody can get paid more handsomely, So interesting to see what happens over the next year and a half as that continues.
Especially there's charter rumors as well.
Yeah. And this is, obviously that was the first real big kind of silly season thing that we saw. And certainly with Kurt Busch, having some health issues following a crash at Pocono a couple weeks ago, out of the seat those 2 weeks, that kind of puts his future in a little bit more of a little bit cloudier than it was before. So there's still a lot of things that are going to happen on a silly season front coming up, but certainly will be interesting to see what happens there. And how about that youth movement, though? There was a lot of crashing, a lot of guys going off track, and who knows what happened on those last 2 laps. But seeing 3 rookies in the top 4 behind Tyler Reddick was pretty impressive.
It was. I just got to say.
Here we go.
I said give Harrison Burton a chance.
He got lucky.
Hey, you never know.
You make your own luck in NASCAR.
That's right.
You've got to be in that position. He was high enough up there to capitalize when all those guys were spinning and wrecking. You know what I mean? Like he didn't come from 30th.
There at the end.
I will say I do like this rookie class because they seem to have more fun with it than previous classes. Like they've done the tortilla challenge, and I think it also goes back to social media and whatever is going on at the time. But I do like their dynamic.
Oh, yeah. Todd Gilliland's just happy to be there. His smile is so big all the time. I root for him just because he's freaking adorable.
You love to see it.
I do love to see it.
You love to see it.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
It's his eyes for you, huh,
That's
Thomas?
right.
He got to lead some laps. He finished top 5.
Right.
That was really his race. Didn't make top 10 on qualifying? Like he was up there?
Yeah.
I swear. Indy was his time to shine.
Right. And certainly, at a track that's owned by Roger Penske, when your dad's kind of Roger Penske's right-hand man and stuff like that, at a place that Penske racing, Team Penske's won, I don't know how many IndyCar races, Indy 500s and certainly some Brickyard 400s and all that stuff at the at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And Cindric, I think, won the Xfinity race there a year or 2 ago, too, if I remember correctly.
Last year.
That, winning at that place certainly means a lot to Austin Cindric. But, you got to figure the kind of season that he's had after Daytona when he won and went to victory lane hasn't been much to write home about. So that certainly finishing second is probably pretty impressive and, something that he could celebrate as well. But yeah, I don't think any of us other than Thomas saw Harrison Burton and Todd Gilliland, running and finishing as strong as they did. And Bubba Wallace finishing 5th too. He had bad luck in the Xfinity race and, the day before. And, again, Bubba's season hasn't been what he wanted it to be, but he has been finishing pretty well over the last 4 or 5 weeks or so. So, he's certainly, flexing a little bit of muscle and, wouldn't be surprised one bit if he ended up in victory lane here pretty soon because that 23 car's been running pretty strong. But that 8 car, victory lane once again. And I'll tell you what, folks, you want to definitely, we know that you celebrated that first win at Road America with the Race Win Diecast, and this is going to be another one you're definitely going to want to add to your collection. The number 8 3-Chi Chevrolet Camaro available, the Race Win version available right now at LionelRacing.com by calling our friendly call center agents at 1-800-952-0708 or checking out another authorized Lionel Racing dealer. And definitely something that you're going to want to add because, as we talked about, Tyler Reddick he's not going anywhere. Yep. He's going to be winning some races for a long time. So definitely want to get that. And while we're sticking in Indianapolis, let's talk about AJ Allmendinger.
Yes, let's do.
Yeah, we always do. Anytime there's a road course race, AJ's name comes up because, let's face it, in the Xfinity Series, there's no one better. I don't think there's ever been anyone better in the Xfinity Series. 3 wins this year, all on road courses. 4 out of the last 5 road course races in the Xfinity Series has been won by AJ Allmendinger. And not only is he winning races, he's winning hearts of people like Alex Pullman all the time.
Actually, that's my husband's heart. I just
that is true.
On that.
We do give Alex a hard time for her, being a fan of AJ, and that's certainly nothing against AJ. He's a hell of a race car driver, really good guy, and as he deserves to have fans like Alex. But there's no one, and I mean no one, who's a bigger AJ Allmendinger fan than Alex's husband, Connor.
Absolutely. You should see our house.
We need to get Connor on this show because I want to know where that came from. Do you know how he became an AJ fan?
I think so. He really wanted to pull for somebody who was not as well known amongst, and I think it was when AJ was at Red Bull, and he just decided one day, hey, you know what? I want to pull for this guy, and he's been a diehard ever since.
I totally respect that. And, you know, like I said, we kid because we care, because AJ is a great guy, certainly a talented race car driver.
You should have him on the show and explain the time Connor made him come to the car and sign all the stuff at the Hall of Fame.
In a parking garage.
There's photos.
Not a drug deal.
I was going to say, were there brown paper bags involved or something? Like,
Connor
what's going on here?
Like sheet metal and boxes of diecast, and AJ came out and signed every single thing in the parking garage at the Hall of Fame. It's a funny story, and that's one either Connor or AJ will have to tell you.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's get them both in here. We can have like a little love connection in here or something. But the really impressive performance once again for AJ Allmendinger, and that race win diecast also available, the number 16 Nutrien Ag Solution Chevrolet. And it's a little bit different, right, Alex? That car is a little bit different hood sponsor than typical on that Nutrien car?
Yes, I believe it's like ESN or something,
Yeah.
Nutrien. But yes, it's a little bit different from the Portland win and then also the Coda win, but it's one you need to have. I mean, it's the third one this year, so you might as well have the set.
That's right. So how many more road course races are there? The Roval, any
And
other?
Watkins Glen.
Watkins Glen. Okay, that's right. So, and the Roval is in the playoff.
Correct.
And
It's a playoff cutoff race, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know it is for Cup. I can't say for sure.
that's
if
true.
it is
I
for
do know. I
Xfinity.
mean, he always flexes pretty well there. I mean, he's
Right.
going for 4 in a row this year at the Roval. So
Is
NBD.
Right. Is he the championship favorite right now? Alex, I don't want to hear from you. You can go. You can go last because we know
Shots in
your
hand.
answer. We know your answer. In the Xfinity Series, is AJ Allmendinger the leader in the clubhouse for the championship?
No.
Really?
I was going to say, how could he not be?
No.
you're going to pick Tiberius, aren't you?
Who?
Tiberius.
Is that actually his first name?
I don't know.
Oh.
Oh. No, I mean, look, and it's no disrespect, but you talk about his wins, his road courses. When it comes down to the ovals, he's not showing quite the speed as the other guys. And I think if they ended at a road course, yeah, I'd say he
Have
is
you
a
been watching
championship
the
favorite.
Xfinity Series this year?
I have, and I see AJ's got 3 wins all at road courses.
That's fine and all, but have you seen he's had like the most straight top 5s and top 10s out
There's
of
no
anybody
doubt
in the
Colleague
series?
is good, but just because he's won 3 road course races, I'm not going to call him a favorite.
Who is then?
I do believe it's Ty. I think it even could be one of the JRM guys.
I was gonna say, could you throw Noah in there?
I think Noah is definitely one. I think Noah's more than maybe even Ty. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. We'll see how it goes. But I'm not, like I said, no disrespect to him. But Alex is over there like gritting her teeth. She's almost crying or throwing stuff. I don't know.
Like, we don't know. Like,
But no, I just like.
I mean, he is great at road courses, but he has gotten better on the ovals, and he does have a great average.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, well, you got Colleague. I mean, it's a great team, and they've come a long way too. But in my opinion, is he a favorite? Sure. Do I think he's going to win? No.
I wouldn't think he'd win purely because last year when he was in the championship 4, he was like, this doesn't mean as much to me as it means to the other 3. Like, I've been around, I've done this already.
Right.
Like, his attitude's not as much in like the must win as the younger guys. So that would be the only reason I would say that while I do think he's great and he could absolutely win, I would expect more of like a Ty or a Noah because they're really like racing for their lives.
I'm going to say this right now. Put it on the board. And it's contingent on if he makes the Final 4, Josh Berry will be your Xfinity Series champion because he will win at Phoenix to win the championship. But he's got to make it to the Final 4, though.
I thought Justin Allgaier over Josh Berry.
That might look. I might be wrong. I've been wrong.
I think a JRM. Like I said, that's why I think JRM.
When
or
you were saying
Ty.
JRM, I was thinking more Justin Allgaier than a Noah or
definitely
a
due.
Josh Berry.
I've been wrong 17 times in my 40 years on this planet, and that could be the 18th, but that's just kind of
17.
That is just my gut feeling that if he makes it to the Final Four, and I think it'll be harder for a guy like Josh Berry to make the Final Four than it will be to win the championship. I think that's usually how it works, right? You know, it's almost harder to survive the playoffs and to get into that Final Four, and then you just kind of throw caution to the wind at Phoenix.
I think you will have a first-time champion in the Cup and the Xfinity Series and a repeat winner in your Truck Series. That is my prediction now.
Interesting.
Who's your repeat
I'm trying
truck
to
winner?
think it.
Ben Rhodes.
You don't think Zane Smith is going to win?
I mean, it could happen. He is running really well, and he, you know, with his wins and all. But I just think I have this feeling Ben Rhodes is going to go back to back.
I like Ben Rhodes because of his personality.
I
wouldn't mind him
I would
winning.
like another interview, but I think there's going to be a first-time Cup Series winner, champion, and a first-time Xfinity Series.
Who's your Cup first-time champion?
Gee, I wonder.
You're thinking Ross Chastain.
Points
He
to
will
shirt.
not win.
No,
I will put that in stone
I was
now.
gonna say
the
that
guys won't even let him win. He'll
Well,
have
I mean,
five
you gotta
guys
think
taking
about
him
the first-time winners, though. That
To be
I mean,
brutal.
to see. I mean, yes, you have somebody like Chase Elliott who's already got like a bazillion wins. It feels like they might as well just hand him the championship at this point.
Not salty at all. Continue.
Right? Yeah.
But no, I'm just saying that you have guys who can surprise you. What? No, go ahead.
Look at your boy over there. Thomas is the one that.
Okay, from our perspective, Chase would be great for Diecast. We have a lot of Chase Elliott fans. I can't. I want to see somebody different.
Look, a first-time champion
like a Kyle Larson
Denny
last year.
Hamlin.
Oh, God, no. Please, no.
in our
You want a first-time winner?
right.
No.
Look, we'll other than we all have drivers that we would like to see do well, but first-time winners, first-time champions are good for our business. It's just the nature of the beast. We want to see. We don't root for anyone to not win the race. We'll put it that way, right? There are some drivers. Look, everybody's laughing at me.
No, I'm laughing at her.
Every driver in the field has fans, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
I am
Just kidding.
If Kyle
confident.
Busch has
just not
fans, everyone
Diecast
has
collectors.
fans.
Well, look,
Yeah, fair.
Just not.
Good point.
They all
good
have
point.
fans.
Ross Chastain winning a championship will be good for our business. Chase Elliott winning a championship is good for our business. But to your point, I know everybody's thinking Denny Hamlin doesn't sell all that well, right? But if he wins his first championship, he will, because it's his first championship. And it
Agreed.
could be the first of 8. He could end up breaking the record someday. You know what I mean? You don't know. That's what I think, first win diecast and stuff like that are so cool to collect in first-time champions, because you don't know if that's the start of something. If somebody ends up winning their first race and then they go on to a Hall of Fame career, you've got that diecast, and if, even somebody like, look, I make no bones about it. I'm a big, Daniel Hemrick fan. When he won his, to this point, one and only race, it won him a championship at Phoenix.
Correct.
Whether he never wins another one or if he ends up winning 50 more Xfinity Series races, that was the first one. And I think the championship's the same way. It never really gets old when you win championships, but it would be, I don't want to say cooler, but it would be something interesting to track if Kyle Busch win. Now the Mars thing kind of throws a wrench into that plan, but if somebody wins their third championship, let's say, versus Denny Hamlin winning his first, it would be really interesting to see how that plays out, from a sales perspective.
Or like a Kurt Busch, and then he would retire
But
after
we
the
still have
fact.
first win diecast that didn't even hit MOQ. Just saying.
Well, and before I was
So,
interrupted, I
fair.
actually, yes, that would be cool to see Ross win, but Ross is actually not the one who I think will win the championship because of all the stuff he's going through. I think he's got the pressure off, but I think Tyler Reddick is
Interesting.
championship contender. He's been very consistent. He's won 2 races. He's on a roll,
Right.
and he's got something to prove.
At road courses.
Oh my god!
He has
just
been.
loves her road course.
He has
I know.
been running
He's been,
well.
he's, I liked him. It's fun.
But no,
It's fun.
We
I
said all
think-
season it was only a matter of time before he won.
I mean, because it was Atlanta. He finished second, the first Atlanta race, I
couple
believe.
of times, yeah.
Yeah.
Michigan.
No, I think it
or,
was Phoenix.
Auto Club, he was running really well too,
Yeah.
and
I was
then
gonna
he
say
had
it
a
was
tire
more-
blow down.
Yeah.
Tire blow.
So I think now that he's got 2 under his belt instead of just the 1, and yes, he's had all the media thing, I think that he's in a very good spot to put himself in the championship 4 and potentially win his first championship.
I think that's more or less about the team, though. I think on that one.
Yeah.
They're not consistent enough. I feel like, but
Yeah, I think they're going to. There was a lot of talk like on social media, you know, are they going to, whether they let Tyler go at the end of 2022, let him be a free agent, or go run Xfinity or run, you know, somewhere else in 2023 leading up to, you know, when he starts at 23-11 or whatnot. But every single one of those guys, from the pit crew to the PR people to the driver to the crew chief, they're not necessarily auditioning for their jobs, but they're trying to make sure that, damn it, I don't care who's driving the car, what the number is, what the sponsor is. I need to make sure I have a job. You know, no crew chief is going to purposely keep his car from winning a race. You know, no driver is going to purposely say, screw it, I want to finish 15th today. And if they do, Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan will not put up with that crap. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's too much on the line to let these guys just kind of...
I was reading somewhere that pit guys are a hot commodity. Like they're starting to sign them like they sign drivers to like 3 and 4 year deals to lock them in because they're such a valuable part of the team.
Yeah, I've got some friends that are on pit crews, and I was actually just talking to one last night because not only is he on a pit crew, but he does some baseball stuff. So talking with him for some stuff with my son, and you know, these teams are locking guys down, like you said, and they're paying them very well to be on these pit crews. And there's some of these big teams, they also feed some of the smaller teams. So they have, 5 or 6 pit crew teams, per team that don't all just do the 3 or 4 cars on, that team, but they also feed other teams, other affiliated teams or whatever it might be with pit crew members. And we've seen it a lot this year, probably more this year than any other time, what pit crews can mean. It can cost you a race. It can cost you a suspension. You know what I mean? A 4-race suspension for crew chiefs and things like that. And nobody wants that. So you want to make sure that you've got the best possible people. And, part of the conversation I had last night is like, it sucks when you have a 4-race suspension, or whatever the penalty might be because of just crappy luck, right? Like, again, no one's going out there purposely leaving lug nuts loose. It just... poop happens, you know what I mean? They're human, they make mistakes, and unfortunately you got to pay for those mistakes these days. But but just kind of putting a period on that. Everybody out there is replaceable. Yep. I don't care who you are in this sport. Everybody is replaceable. So everybody is out there to try to get to victory lane every single week. Again, I don't care if you mop the shop at the or if you're a multiple time champion driver. Everybody's replaceable, so you got to try to earn your keep. And that's what we're trying to do here too, right?
Yeah. Daily.
Yes, absolutely. Again, get those Race Win Diecast, 1-800-952-0708, or by visiting LionelRacing.com. And that wraps up the Indy weekend. We're going to Michigan this coming weekend. Woo-hoo. That's Carlene's home track. Who is going to win at your home track this weekend?
I don't know. I do not know how to judge it with these new cars. I want it to be like Atlanta. I was just talking to one of our sales guys about this, but I feel like it's going to be more like Auto Club. And I don't know. I would love a Chase Briscoe win, to be honest.
Interesting.
I would love him to be locked into the playoffs. Have him win at my home track would be sick. But total out there win would be the 77 car because it's a Michigan State car and there's going to be a bunch of Michigan State people there. So
there you go, Josh Balicki.
There you go, Josh Balicki. Right. I'm your #1 fan this weekend.
Different. It's going to be a Chevy.
It will not be Josh Balicki.
It'll be a Chevy.
You don't know that.
You're right. You don't know.
How about Eric Jones?
Eric Jones would be cool. He's a Michigan boy.
Yes.
He was the first driver I ever cheered for when I went to Michigan.
I'm going Eric Jones this week. Just bold.
I always wanted to pick Brad because Brad's also a Michigan, but he's just having some really bad luck.
It's going to be Busher before it's Brad.
Yeah. All of the Ford teams are certainly struggling this year, as we touched on last week.
And Eric just got re-signed, so he's
he's feeling good.
Ford momentum.
Yeah. So I think that'll be that's actually a really good kind of sleeper pick, the Eric Jones thing. I do agree that it's going to be a Chevrolet.
Reddick.
I'm going to go way out on a limb and say it's going to be Chase Elliott. So that's
wow. You really put yourself out there.
I really did. Look, balls of steel over here, but you got to make the really strong picks when you have to. So
hopefully the 5 car will have brakes this weekend.
Yeah, we did say we would touch on that. Wow.
That was intense.
I heard that there was no brake failure, that it could have just been a mistake on his part.
Correct. They did not report any.
They said no mechanical issue, no brake issue. It could have been a mistake on Larson's part. I don't know how
That came
true
straight
that
from
is.
Hendrick.
Yeah,
Well, from
look.
Bob
Yeah.
Hockers coming
Thank
from
you.
Hendrick.
You know,
Don't come at me. I read it.
No. If you see it on the internet, it's got to be true.
Bob is never wrong.
No. Look, I'm sure that's what
Bob
the
and I
team
are
is saying.
friends. He called me and told me personally.
Look, the team can say anything they want, and none of us could ever dispute what their data shows and stuff like that. I just know that Kyle Larson's way too damn good of a race car driver to blow a corner that bad.
And he had that right front whole problem. They had the wheel off. They were fixing stuff in the right front.
Right.
I was gonna say, well, and he hit the curb too. Like, I mean, it's like when he hit that, that's not it. That didn't even help slow him down. I mean, he
right.
literally just went.
Look,
Yeah, he was
and
pretty fast.
yeah,
And didn't they say right before there, he was saying something like pedal?
they
or
were talking
brake or
about
something?
breakage, and
Yeah.
he
Like
had
a soft pedal or something.
Yeah, he
Right?
said something before. I thought.
Look, we are in no position to tell the race team that they're wrong. They're the ones.
Sure we are.
Look,
I'm pretty qualified.
We're just happy everyone's safe.
right.
Right.
Yes.
And good Lord, Ty Dillon, that was a hard hit. I was very happy to see.
I mean, there was no more 42 on the right hand side of that car once
Yeah.
it was said and done. The crush panels on the ground, everything.
At first, before they actually showed what happened to them, you see Ty Dillon, his car looked like it grenaded.
Yeah.
And then you see Kyle Larson sitting there like something big happened. And then finally they found a replay of it. And then it was like, holy guacamole, that was crazy.
And then Larson actually, going over to check on him, or
Right.
see like, hey, what's happening?
Yeah,
Like,
that was
bro.
pretty big.
And you can see, I read Ty's lips because I wanted to see if they were like MFing each other or something like that. And you can read Ty's lips. And he at one point he says, "Did you lose brakes?" And you could see Kyle nod his head. That's just all I'm going off of. So they, I'm sure Kyle would have said, "No, dude, I just screwed up."
Well, and I thought when they said it wasn't brakes that his throttle hung open, because you see that sometimes, and the inertia is what slowed him down.
right. Look, I could be wrong. That could be the 18th time, whatever, that I've been wrong. But I truly don't believe that there was.
You got your 18th.
I don't believe-
this weekend with Chase Elliott.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't believe it was driver error. We'll put it that. That's all I'm going to say. I don't believe that it was driver error that happened. But
And I was
We'll see.
talking to Matt about this yesterday, right? Today's the second day of the week. I found it quite interesting in the way of the world's working that the car Larson hit is his old ride.
Oh, I mean,
Old
that is-
number, at
that-
least.
Old number.
Yeah.
Yeah, of all the cars to have been in that position, the fact that he hit the 42
karma.
seems very like full circle-y. I don't know. That was just me.
yeah,
Well, also,
Different team,
I
but
found
yeah, I
it
get it.
very.
Same number.
Sorry,
Right.
let me piggyback on that real quick. When I was watching the IndyCar race on Saturday, they spoke of him sitting on the Ganassi pit box during the IndyCar race, and I said, "Oh, well, that's odd
That is interesting.
because of how all that played out." But
Larson's taking Pelo's spot next year.
yeah,
oh,
exactly.
You heard it here first. Which
Silly
did,
season 101.
yeah, which didn't they say?
Follow Carlene for more tips.
Wasn't it when Newgarden was maybe not going to race or something like that? They said who would, fill that spot in the IndyCar race, and Kyle Larson tweeted like with his hand up or something like that. I was like, oh boy, here we go. Here, not talk about silly season rumors. But what did Kyle Larson do last night? He won a sprint car race or a midget race, something like that
did.
on dirt.
He
It
can
was
drive
like-
anything.
Yeah. So again, kind of furthers my point that I don't think it was driver error. I think he's just too good of a driver to just say, nope, I'm not going to slow down right here.
He
Hendrick
could
or
have just taken
NASCAR.
the access road. It would have been fine.
would've been
Right.
great,
And then he would have
yeah.
been a hero.
Yeah.
All right. So
know what?
all the race win diecast from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course, LionelRacing.com, 1-800-952-0708. And up next, we will talk about all the new diecast coming your way soon from Lionel Racing on Authenticated. Right up next. As promised, we've got a bunch of new diecast coming out this week, and some that have already released, easy for me to say. And to bring those to you in fresh paint this week, here's Carlene.
It's me. It's you. So, the freshest paint since filming this podcast that has come out has been the Dale Jr. number 3 Sundrop late model stock car, which is running at North Wilkesboro at the end of August. I believe it is running on the 30th and the 31st. And that's a pretty sick looking car, isn't it, Matt?
In case you hadn't heard, Alex is really excited. She's jumping down over there.
I am going on 3.
I am a fan of short track racing.
We didn't know that.
It's true. I make no bones about it. It It is a passion of mine. But seeing Dale Jr. back in a Sundrop number 3 late model like he was in 1993 or 6 or something like that, like way back in the day, right? Is going to be really cool at a place like North Wilkesboro. The fact that they're reopening the doors there, this racetrack revival that they've been doing is just a phenomenal event. Actually, as you're listening to this, probably on Wednesday, there's a modified race there tonight. So go there if you're not already planning on it. They race there Tuesday and Wednesday with modifieds, and then in a couple weeks they'll have Super and Pro late models, and then the week after that they have the Cars Tour late model stocks, and that's the one that Dale Jr. will be racing. And if we really want to get into it, what's the difference between a Pro late model and a Super late model stock car? I ain't going to get into it right now because it'll be boring for...
One's Pro and one's Super late.
I was going to say the name.
One is late to the show.
And if you go to Bowman Gray and watch them, then it's just...
But see, those are sportsman cars. Those are different than all of the
But they
above.
look like late models.
Correct. So
I'm confused.
we will do a short track racing 101 someday.
Just short track
Bring
racing.
Ryan Priest
Right.
back.
Yeah. Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
Alex and I will not talk the entire time.
I'll just look at Carly across the table again.
But, seeing that, Dale Jr. in a number 3 Sundrop car will be really cool because it's truly a throwback. And, of course, Dale Jr. and Carrie and Kelly all grew up racing late models back in the 90s. So kind of a really cool throwback thing. And those JRM cars, you think they're strong in the Xfinity Series. Well, they're really good in late models, too. So Carson Quapple, if you might remember Travis Quapple racing the Cup Series. One of his boys is actually driving a JRM late model stock car in that race as well as a teammate to Dale Jr. So it'll be a really cool to see kind of a throwback thing at North Wilkesboro with Dale Jr. in that car. And I already placed my order for the autographed version of that Dale Jr. car. I placed that this morning, so I'm pretty pumped to add that one.
I had a bunch of people sending me messages about it.
I do want to touch on that because on social, and poor Carlene's trying to address these as quick as she can about what mold and what tooling will be used for that car. As we have posted, it will be the 2006 Chevy Monte Carlo mold, and those of you who bought the Chase Elliott Snowball Derby car from 2020, I think that was, it'll be the same mold as that. Is it exact to a current late model? Absolutely not. Is it as close as a current tool that we have access to can possibly be? Yes. And I'll tell you what, I got that Chase Elliott car on my shelf. You look at it, it looks like a late model. You know what I mean? It does. Again, there are folks saying, hey, why don't you just create late model tooling? Fair. But I promise you, because I've had these conversations. I told you, I'm a short track racing fan. I've had these conversations with folks that know way more about this project than I do, about what the feasibility is to do late models, modifieds, whatever it might be. The tooling cost, and then the amount of teams that would be able to support it, and the amount of fans that would be able to support creating all this tooling and all this, the manufacturing process of a new type of vehicle just isn't there. I know that there's passionate people about it. I talked to Ryan Priest about it on the modified side. I've talked to a lot of super late model guys about doing it. The problem is, as many fans as they say that there are, will they put their money where their mouth is and actually buy, let's say $100 diecast, and there's just not enough out there to make that feasible. Could there be someday? Could there be with some advancements and some, commitments and things like that? Absolutely. But for the time being, from a feasibility standpoint, to be able to get this car out in time, we're not going to create a new tool just for this car. As much as Dale Jr. fans would love it, and I would love it as a short track fan, it just doesn't make sense. But you put it on that 2006 Monte Carlo tool, you put all the late model contingencies and things like that, just like the Snowball Derby car. We worked with Tim Horvath at HD5 Design to get the Snowball Derby windshield banner right on that Chase Elliott car from a couple of years ago. It looks just like the car was on the dang racetrack. So that's the scoop. Just the availability to create new tooling for these late models just isn't there right now. Down the road, hopefully, maybe, we'll see. But for right now, to get this car out there, to celebrate Dale Jr. getting back behind the wheel of a late model stock car, this is what we got. And I think if you give it a shot, you will really enjoy this car. Because like I said, I've ordered one. I think a couple of us in this room have ordered one, and a lot of people will because it's Dale Jr.
There you go.
Yes.
And that's Matt with the late model stock car weather.
And I will now get off my soapbox and allow Carlene to continue with her.
That's Matt's weekly soapbox.
There you go. Many much thanks, sir, because you've said it better than I could, obviously. Also up in the fresh paint is the Brad Keselowski number 6 Kohler Generator Tribute, the red, white, and blue. I know a lot of you guys really wanted to see it offered after the Coke 600. This is the one that ran at Road America that has all the names of the veterans or the veteran families. Alex?
I was going to say the approval took a little bit because we had to get permission from the families of the names on the car. So now that it is offered.
Perfect. And I did see one person over the weekend actually tweet that their son pre-ordered it for him because his name is on the car. So that's super cool and something awesome to add to your collection, especially if your name is on it. Another one that we've got up is the Martin Truex Jr. number 19 Auto Owners Martin Truex Jr. Foundation, the Sherry Strong Toyota Camry that ran at Indy this past weekend. You guys saw it get posted by the Sherry Strong Foundation as the special liquid color available. Now we've got all the standard, the ARC, the color chrome, all the other versions, and it's got the really cool chrome gold numbers, which I don't think we've seen yet, or we saw it on Burton's car only. So that pops super well with the teal on the car. It's a really beautiful car. They did a great job designing that one. We also have the William Byron number 24 Acronis. Cronus. I knew I was gonna mess it up. I literally wrote it phonetically, and I still messed it up. Thank you, team. The Chevy Camaro that you guys saw run at Indy, that one's a really clean looking car with the lighter periwinkle blue and the white. It's a really beautiful look. We've got the Pocono Xfinity race win, the Noah Gragson Bass Pro True Timber Black Rifle Coffee.
That is a mouthful.
I'm going to need that man to get less sponsors, but not really, because he's great out there and he does a lot for them. It's just a lot to say. As you guys know, Noah always does a really great job with the burnouts. This time having the American flag on the windshield, I think kind of held them down a little bit. And last I heard from production, we are still looking into the American flag. Nothing official as of, I was told, yesterday. So we'll be back with more, and what we hear will be posted. We also have the Kurt Busch McDonald's car that unfortunately he didn't get to run, but it is a beautiful looking scheme. While he was out at Pocono and Indy, unfortunately we are unable to offer the Ty Gibbs first start with the rookie stripes on the back, and the black hood, I believe, was with the difference. And so apologies to all of you, but when we don't get approvals, unfortunately, we can't put it up for you. But you can still get the McDonald's car on its own with Kurt's name on it. You know, support Kurt because we want him back, or at least I do. So that is all the fresh paint I believe that we have this week. So yeah, as you guys know, get them at lionelracing.com. You can call our customer care team at 1-800-952-0708, or you can reach out to any of our other authorized Lionel Racing dealers. Plus, check out our Instagram story because I put a lot of work into those. Thank you so much.
Yes.
That is my time.
And follow us on TikTok as well, because Carlene puts a lot of effort into that.
Yes.
And
Oh my gosh, we have such a fun one coming out.
by the time that you're hearing this,
so much.
you will probably see things that you didn't expect to see.
But it was so fun.
We have a newbie at the store, and luckily he doesn't know how to tell me no yet. So
Right.
Good times.
Yes. So definitely check out our TikTok, because there will be some things that I don't know if you want to see, but you should. Hey, if I had to see it, you got to see it. We'll put it that way. So
It's great.
yes.
I can't wait.
Thank you, Carlene, for that. And we're going to introduce a new segment coming up next. Ask Lionel Racing. Yeah, you've got questions, we've got answers, and we're going to bring them to you up next on Authenticated. Here's a new segment that we're going to introduce to you on Authenticated. We're going to call it Ask Lionel Racing. We did this a few times when we were all working from home COVID time. We had a couple of live shows that we called Ask Lionel Racing. Ask you to submit some questions using the hashtag Ask Lionel Racing, and we addressed them. Thomas did a bunch. Howard did a couple. I think I was on most of them, if not all of them, and we had a good time, and hopefully we answered a bunch of your questions. But obviously, now that we're back in the office and we're pumping out a bunch of cool diecasts, a lot of folks have a lot of questions, and we're going to open this up today with some of the questions that we've seen on social media, but we want you to submit your questions moving forward. Use hashtag Ask Lionel Racing. Let us know what maybe some things that might be a little bit behind the scenes. I know a lot of folks are wondering, hey, when's my car coming in, or when, something along those lines. And Carlene does a great job of responding to those on social media. But sometimes there's more to a story, there's more to an answer than can fit in a tweet, let's say. So that's what we're here to do, is maybe address a few of those today and open the door for you to ask some of your questions. Again, use hashtag Ask Lionel Racing on social media, and we'll save a bunch of them. And every time we do a show, we'll try to get to a couple of them. So So with that, we'll open up the first couple of questions. Carlene, what can we help folks with? We are here. We are people helping people. What can we do for them?
We're the Wonder Pets. Okay, so one of the questions that keeps popping up, so figured we'd put it in here, is do we know about paint schemes ahead of time? And kind of like what's our connection with the teams?
That sounds like a good question for Alex, because as a member of our production team,
I am.
You interact with these race teams on a daily basis.
That is correct.
So let's give folks a little bit of insight as to how a paint scheme turns into a diecast, like how that process from when you first have a discussion with a race team that says, hey, we're going to run X car at X race, and what happens from there.
Okay.
I'm throwing you on the spot, aren't I?
No, it's fine. I was just trying to think of a great scenario to kind of go off of. Well, so usually kind of piggybacking on the questions, we get the paint scheme from the team, or it runs on track and people ask about it. And then we reach out to the team and hopefully we get it. And then we go through the approval process. We put it on our template. We send it to the team for approval in their system, which is like a whole umbrella of things from NASCAR down to the team, down to all the sponsors who have to approve things in the system. Once that's approved, we can go to sample on it. The sample takes a little bit of time. Once the photos for the samples come in, we send those to the team, which also goes through that whole process again through the sponsors and NASCAR and everything. And once that's done, we can sign off for production. So it isn't like an overnight kind of thing. There is a lot of steps that have to be taken. Has to go through a lot of hands, and depending on your sponsorship, on the approvals, there might be some changes that have to be made halfway through the process. So it's definitely a cool process to be a part of. It's very time management. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time to get the perfect product that will end up on your shelves.
And I think also when we interact with these teams, and I'm in a lot of these meetings as well. So we have meetings once a month with all of the major teams. Some of the smaller teams we maybe meet with once a quarter, maybe once, or maybe even just once a year sometimes with some of the smaller teams. But the ones that have, multiple cars with, it's drivers that sell a lot of product, we interact with them quite frequently.
Sure.
Most of the time, these teams are very upfront saying, hey, we're going to run this car at this race. Here's the art, let's get the process going. Sometimes, for a various amount of reasons. It could be because it's confidential and they don't want it to see. We all sign non-disclosure agreements with these teams. So anytime somebody gives us artwork, no one sees it until we're ready for them to see it.
Correct.
It stays within our four walls. And a lot of times teams will say, we don't want this released until the press release goes out or whatever the driver announcement, the sponsorship announcement is. So we might not have the art until a team releases it, right?
That is correct.
Sometimes we'll have it well in advance of the release. Great example, that Dale Jr. late model today. Mm-hmm. Okay. No one else, maybe outside of Junior Motorsports and us and whoever else was making the t-shirts and things like that for it, knew that Dale Jr. was going to run that race. They announced it today, but we knew about it several weeks ago. So we got the sales sheet together, we got the artwork together and all that stuff. So almost immediately after it was announced, we had the diecast available for sale.
Right.
That happens. Sometimes we don't know about it, and the team can release a really cool paint scheme, and we won't know about it until somebody says, hey, Lionel, why don't you make that diecast? Great idea. Let's get in touch with the race team, right? That happens a lot too. It's
kind of like you get on Twitter, like I'll have Carlene go, hey, this so-and-so was running this paint scheme this weekend, or it showed up on the entry list on J-Ski. Is there any, interest in offering that? And that comes up on our sales calls every week of the new stuff that's coming out. But yeah, it's just depends on the process, and especially going into the new year with, primary paint schemes we want to get, ready and everything. A lot of those are confidential until, the release date set by the team. And we might have that sitting, like we have a couple sitting right now. We just can't show them.
And there's some opportunities also where we can say, hey, social media is abuzz with this car. And we'll reach out to a team and say, hey, a lot of people want it. Thomas, from your RCCA forum, a lot of people will be asking for cars. We'll bring it up to a race team, and race team will be like, nope, we don't want to do it. For whatever reason, right. It happens. It happens a lot, actually. I will say I can't think of a single time where a paint scheme where a lot of people wanted, Lionel Racing says we don't want to do it. It is, I can't think of a single time where we don't make that call. If a race team or a sponsor wants us to make a diecast, if all the stars align and everything like that, we'll produce it or offer it at least.
At least offer it.
But it's
Right.
mostly on it's licensing issues usually with the sponsor is why
Right.
we can't offer it. For example, like the Corey LaJoy WWE card that everybody wanted us to offer. We would love to offer it, but due to the rights with Peacock and everything, not even the team could, produce the rights to make that. Same with the Coke cars that the Trackhouse guys ran at Darlington. It's just, it depends on the sponsor. We have to honor what the sponsor and the team say. So as much as we would love to make them, it's just in their court and we can't do it.
Right. A lot of times we say, especially on like the forum and stuff, we say no plans to offer. Fans kind of go crazy, think that we just don't want to offer because we say no plans.
Right.
But I've said before, and I hope that kind of comes across, that it could be sometimes we just don't plan because we know there's no sponsor interest, there's no team interest. The past cars have failed McHugh, and sometimes it is. The team says no. But what we're not going to do is hurt our relationship with the teams and say the team said we don't want this car, or because it could hurt the driver's opinion of the team, it could hurt anything. So there's conversations that are had internally. So I answer it very vague. No plans to offer.
Right.
It could be due to the team. It could be due to the sponsor. It could be due to us. But 99% of the time, it's no plans to offer if we're not going to offer something, just because hopefully people understand we have relationships, and those relationships with the teams are much more important than satisfying your desire to know why.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And it's not that we don't want to tell you why. We can't tell you why. Like you just said,
Oh, we probably could, but in some cases, it's not in our best interest to tell you.
Right.
Even if we say it's a sponsor issue, or the sponsor said no, we don't want to go say that in some cases because
then
it could just hurt the team relationship, the sponsor relationship, or whatever. And we have to be that's something I know we always talk about. We have to be very careful on how we say things.
And fans are very passionate that if we say, hey, this sponsor doesn't want to do it for whatever reason, they will tag them, and then the sponsor will go to the race team and be like, why are these people adding us on all this? And then, kind of calling us out on stuff like this isn't cool. And that's just not a path that we need to go down.
Right.
No.
But to answer, that was a very long-winded answer. So, and to summarize, oftentimes we know about paint schemes before they're even announced. So we're able to at least get that process going. Sometimes that process takes longer and it doesn't come out until long after the driver or the team announces that they have this sponsor or this paint scheme. Other times, thanks to our sleuths on social media and poor Penske Racing with their little catwalk. Sometimes it seems like a couple times a year somebody will take a picture from that catwalk at Penske of a new Penske paint scheme and tweet us, hey, look at this Ryan Blaney car. You guys don't know anything about it, do you? And we're like, nope, but we're gonna figure it out for you. So,
or like the fish bowls at some of the others that they can just go whoop.
Exactly. So. Again, we've said this, I think I've said it personally on this show many, many times. We hear you. We see you. We if we could offer everything, we would. There's a multitude of reasons why we can't. Sometimes we can tell you why we can't. More often than not, we can't. But just trust us. If you want it, we want it. And we do our best to get it to you.
Absolutely. And that mainly goes for the Cup teams, which leads into our second question. Why does it take extra time for Xfinity and Truck Wins to be offered as opposed to Cup?
You've dealt with a lot of these this year, Alex.
Yeah, and I actually, the one mentioned too, Brandon Brown's Talladega win last year. Especially in the Xfinity, you have a couple of big teams, but mostly in the Xfinity series and the Truck series, they're smaller teams, which means either we haven't done business with them before, or, we kind of have to walk them through the process. And it does take some time to get them all set up and everything and, explain how long it takes to die cast. But a lot of times they're very excited to have their product out there in the fans' hands. So it's going to take some time to get us, our relationship built with that particular team or sponsor or whatever it is. And then you do see the finished product, but it's just not going to happen overnight, kind of like, with some of the Cup cars. But in the end, you will get your Xfinity car from the smaller teams, which are, I think, a lot cooler to have because, you see the one-offs like a Brandon Brown or, like a Jeffrey Earnhardt in a 3 car, even though that was, for RCR. But it's still a cool thing to have in your collection.
Well, and a lot of these teams too have a carousel of sponsors that they go through.
Correct.
So we can't necessarily sign an agreement because a lot of these teams come up with sponsorships the day before the race or something like that, or the week of the race. So we can't expect what I brought up as an example, as Alex just mentioned, is that Brandon Brown thing. When he won at Talladega last year, I'll be honest, nobody was really expecting it. We weren't expecting it. We didn't have an agreement with Brandonville Motorsports at the time.
We had to hunt them down, get a contact there.
And they've got a sponsor that we have to run everything through. So a lot of these teams, and even some of the bigger teams in the Xfinity Series, have a rotating cast of sponsors. And all of those sponsors have to sign off on a diecast. So again, if there's 25 different sponsors on somebody's race car, we don't expect a race team to sign a contract and agreement for that. Should one of these 25 sponsors win, we can go to production with it or at least offer it. So there's a lot of moving pieces. Whereas in the Cup Series, each team either has one, FedEx is easy. We know FedEx is going to be on the car for the vast majority of the races. So that's not a real big issue. But most of them only have maybe 2 or 3 sponsors. So it's a little bit easier. And then also, as we were learning with some of these teams, say Parker Kligerman. Some of these teams that we might not have contacts with.
Yes.
Takes a while to get those contacts.
Yes. I mean, and you have to wait for them to reply. You got to search them down and get permission. We are in the process of trying to get permission to offer Parker Kligerman's win, but we have all those agreements that we have to go through and everything. It just, like Matt said, it takes time with some of these just to be able to offer. And
what's Parker Kligerman's truck win? What's the other issue that we have to deal with? Photos.
That is correct. When it's not that's another thing. When it's not raced as a companion race with the Cup Series, we have sometimes problems with getting reference photos to produce the diecast accurately, like it ran on track and how it finished in victory lane. So it can also be another issue to hunt that down, make sure you get everything you need so you can get every angle of said car or truck when correct.
And
Simple as that, right?
Well, yeah. And I have an addition onto what Alex was saying, and kind of you as well, Matt, on the multiple sponsors on a car. Just as an example, trying to get the Brad Perez car or truck approved. Yeah. You've got a different driver in that truck almost every weekend. You've got 5 different sponsors on the car, and needing the time to reach out to every single one, get to the team. We know that you guys want them, especially that truck that was huge on social media. It just takes a legitimate process to get everything done and everyone check all T's crossed and I's dotted.
Yes.
That's correct.
Nailed
Beautiful. It. Sweet. Go team.
Crushed it.
All right. My final question of the segment is, why do some 1/64 scale diecasts come on a base?
Who wants to answer that one? Nobody. Crickets.
Because some sponsors are for adults and it's an adult collectible. So they don't want kids playing with such things as beer sponsorships, or, and when we were never allowed to produce monster cars because you don't want to give energy drinks to kids.
Right. And that's a sponsor driven thing. Exactly. And people might say, hey, you've produced some energy drinks on 64 scales before, not on a base. Yep. But if the sponsor says, hey, we don't want kids playing with it, and now our 1/64 scale ARC cars are marked as adult collectibles, and they are. My 7-year-old plays with them. They're not, they're adult collectibles, but we're not totally numb to the fact that kids play with them too.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of explains, some of the alcohol sponsors. That explains some of the energy drink sponsors. There's another thing that we just learned about today, Carlene and I. Some people are curious why the McDonald's car of Bubba Wallace, the ARC, the win version from Talladega last year, came on a base. That was a good question because we had to go.
Absolutely, we had no clue.
we were actually just talking about it, and Michael Kirchgessner, who is in charge of our licensing, just happened to walk by. He's like, because it has small parts.
Just casual as ever.
Yeah. Oh, so the
Shocking.
little light went off. Okay, so McDonald's obviously is it's a family brand, and kids eat McDonald's. We all eat McDonald's, and our kids eat McDonald's, all that stuff. But because McDonald's is so careful when it comes to kids and things like that, if a product that they are affiliated with has small parts, they don't want kids necessarily playing with it. If you see a Happy, now it makes sense, because if you see a Happy Meal toy, it's usually like stickers now, or it's like one piece of molded plastic or something like that, something that a kid's not going to choke on.
Right.
But you look at our little 64 scale cars and the little steering wheel on the inside, or a tire comes off or something like that.
Absolutely.
On the off, the almost no chance that it'll happen. It's not a risk that McDonald's is willing to take. So that's why it comes on a base now. So not only are you listeners learning something today, we learned something today about that.
And E2 posted a picture of the next gen McDonald's 164 over the weekend to confirm that one is also on a base, because one of our followers had asked them, because until then only the Talladega one had been seen. So it is confirmed, obviously, as we already stated, but all the rest are going to come on a base, which prompted a question, and I don't know if we know this one, but someone asked us, does that mean McDonald's cars will no longer be in the wave? That's got to be a yes, right?
That's a fair question, and I don't have an answer to. But I'll tell you what, we will use that next week on Hey Lionel Racing, or Ask Lionel Racing. That's a great question. But
tune in, guys.
That's right. And also, Alex, I'll let you touch on this too. Some sponsors, because of what they are, we can't offer a 64 scale at all, and that is their choice as well.
That is correct. Based on what the product they are. For instance, the 3-Chi Reddick, because of the content of what the sponsor produces, they do not want to promote that within, children, even though it is an adult collectible. So we just offer the 24 scales, as you saw with his Win car.
Yep. And there's some alcohol sponsors that are that way also.
That is correct. And same with Monster as well. Any energy drinks, anything of that nature.
Right. So that's your answer.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Of course.
The more you know.
That's
My brain
right.
feels big.
Right. So hopefully, moving forward, now you got a little bit of experience of what the Ask Lionel Racing segment's going to be all about. If it's something that maybe we can't fit into a tweet or something like that you want to know, we will certainly try to address it as many as we can during upcoming episodes of Authenticated. So make sure you use hashtag Ask Lionel Racing, and we will address those questions. And it might not just be the four of us that bring those in. If there's a question that has to do with licensing, or maybe production, or maybe our warehousing or shipping department or something like that, we're not scared to bring other people from our team in here to get you the answers that you're looking for. So keep that in mind too. So whatever department you might have a question for, we can definitely get you in touch with the right person through our Ask Lionel Racing segment. And that certainly doesn't mean stop using our social media, because even these hashtag Ask Lionel Racing questions might still be addressed on our social media instead of on our podcast, but we're going to save the really good ones, I guess, for the podcast.
Ones.
Exactly. So hit us up that way, and we'll address more of these questions down the road on Authenticated. Up next, though, we are going to wrap things up and call it a day here on the show. It's just about time to get out of here and call it a day on Authenticated. But before we do that, as we always do, we have to go through our last lap highlights of the week, whatever we think was the biggest news and our favorite topics, or whatever it might have been from the world of NASCAR, the world of Diecast, or some combination of the two. And we're going to start with Alex. What was your last lap highlight of the week?
I enjoyed seeing the legendary photo they took on the start-finish line at Indy with Mario Andretti, Mr. Penske, AJ Foyt, IndyCar drivers, the NASCAR drivers who won. He had like Brad and Kevin Harvick. AJ was there. And I was happy because I've always been a Casey Kane fan, that Casey Kane was even there. And, it was just legends in one photo. And to say that you wanted Indy and still be in that photo was just monumental. And I know AJ said that he actually talked to AJ Foyt and said, I don't think I belong in this picture. And, but he's a legend. I mean, he's kissed the bricks. So
That's all it takes.
Yep.
It's a very select, fraternity of drivers that can say that they've done that in Indianapolis, and it means something. I don't care if it's Xfinity race or the Indy 500 or anything in between. It's a big deal to win at Indianapolis, and really cool photo op. I agree with you there. Thomas, what about you? What was your last lap highlight?
I think it just kind of goes back to the last lap itself. I mean, to watch everybody, to watch the top 5 that we had at the end, a diverse top 5, to watch the rookies, Cindric, Burton, and Gillen, that's pretty awesome. And I think it says a lot about potentially where the sport's going, where the new car has helped. Again, I know we talked about this earlier in the chaos that ensued and how they might have got up there and everything else, but at the end of the day, they still were there. They finished. It was just, instead of one guy finding a bone, you got 3 of them find a bone. So I'll take that. And I think that's kind of cool.
I agree. It's cool seeing, and like we talked about, even Bubba Wallace in the top 5, top 5 drivers behind Tyler Reddick, or 2nd through 5th, was guys that you don't necessarily expect to be up there. So really cool way to finish things off at Indianapolis. Carlene, what you got?
This isn't my last lap highlight, but I'm coming to a realization that I don't know if we've pointed this out before, that Alex is only fans of guys who have pretty faces. Because it's been Casey Kane, Ryan Blaney, Corey LaJoy, and now Ross Chastain, which that is...
Got it. We can call her Shallow Al.
God.
Shallow Al.
I will be honest.
Shallow Al.
Fair.
There you go. I got it.
Yeah, and while Ross may not be my cup of tea, you personally find him to be cute, so therefore he goes into the category.
And I thought we were friends.
We are friends, which is why I'm pointing out this
shade.
I mean, I have,
fatality
I
of
have
yours.
been very vocal about this because I've gotten shade for this before. Yes, she's right on point with that.
Boom. So if you're a pretty NASCAR driver, Alex is coming for you. Or dare I call you beautiful?
Handsome.
I'm also married, so don't worry about it. So you're fine.
Anywho.
We should have this conversation again when Connor is in here. You're like, oh, do you know about your wife's unhealthy obsession with somebody?
He does.
Have you
mean,
go, oh yeah. I'm sorry.
how
Have
many
you
times
had-
has he taken her to actually probably like go stalk Casey
don't
Kane
stalk
in general?
anybody.
In general, he was there. He
Okay.
like drove her there for the moment.
I did not ask anyone to sign
You poor
anything in my car in a parking garage. Just
That's true.
saying. I did not go on.
No, but let it go on record that...
So you're 2 peas in a pod.
I'm not
It's
that
like
bad.
2 meant to be together.
No.
There
But-
you go.
Hopefully we're a little closer to getting the full backstory of this whole parking lot tryst
meet up.
that happened
Yeah,
between
stay
Connor and
dark.
AJ Allmendinger.
Yeah, stay tuned to that one.
But my actual last lap highlight, getting back on track, that I just thought of is the fact that the next gens are in our warehouse and in our store and shipping out. So while y'all have been seeing them trackside, and I know a lot of you have been wondering why they're there and they're not shipping yet and what have you, they are now finally trickling in and coming your way. So I've been getting a lot of that on social, and it's awesome to see everybody posting the pictures of the cars that they're getting.
It's good stuff. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to steal some of your thunder from social media coming up this week. Last few weeks, we've been announcing or releasing what new diecast are going to be available trackside at some upcoming races. I had a whole slew of them at Indianapolis this past week. Only one new car, but it's going to be one that you're going to want to get. It's going to be the Chase Elliott Hooters 64 scale. That's going to be trackside for the first time this week. So that's definitely going to be one. If you're going to Michigan, pick that car up because it's going to be a cool one.
There you go. People have already been asking.
That's what we do. We help people here.
We are here for you.
That's right. My last lap highlight, I'll just make it real quick. It's Dale Jr. running a late model.
What?
Look.
Not that there's a modified race tonight or anything.
Well, by the time people hear it, one race will be over. And the next race is Wednesday night. But there is a live stream of it. They're not giving us any money, so I'm not going to tell you where you can get it. But just do a quick little search.
No free advertisements here.
Do a quick little Google search, and you can find out which companies live streaming that. And definitely check all those races out because they're going to run modifieds, late models, street stocks, all that kind of stuff in the month of August. And then in October, they're running a bunch of dirt cars there. So it's North Wilkesboro reopening. But Dale Jr. running a number 3 Sundrop car, and the fact that we're making a diecast of it is pretty badass in my opinion because that kind of, I'm a Dale Jr. fan. I wasn't a Dale Jr. fan until I started working here and then got to interact with him a bunch. And like this guy is like a normal dude, right? Like you didn't really realize that when you see him on TV, you know. But as I got to do a couple of projects with him and be like, man, this guy's pretty awesome. So I'm a Dale Jr. fan and I'm a late model fan. So those two worlds colliding is pretty cool for me. So definitely get that pre-order in because we want to make that car. Anybody got anything else before we call it a day?
No, just that I was going to correct you, and you said we are producing it. It is currently up for offer. If it hits MOQ, which I'm sure it will, but I have to correct people
Has a
all
Dale
the
Jr.
time.
car ever not made MOQ?
I have to correct people all the time on Twitter
You're right.
when they say, "Are you producing this car?" And it's up for offer. Once
That's
it hits
fair.
MOQ, we will produce it.
That's fair.
Thank you.
In your 26 years, Thomas, has a Dale Jr. car ever not made MOQ?
To my knowledge,
Right.
no way.
Our fans will call us out and be like, "Oh yeah, remember that one time that he ran like a
Right.
Boudreaux's butt paste car in Hartman or something like that?"
Right.
Yeah, like
I mean, no, to my knowledge, I don't. Not that I know
yeah.
of. I don't know.
So, but you're right.
I'm just saying,
we do need to
be technical.
clarify. And if that Matt guy in the marketing department would actually do the Diecast 101 list that he's been talking about for about a year now.
The Diecast dictionary
Yes,
that I
that's
put
it.
together.
Yes.
Thank you.
To actually bring that to life, that will be that'll be really cool for the
That'll be the
fans.
day.
Yeah. Well, we're going to make it happen. I know people. So that'll wrap up the show here today on Authenticated. For Alex, Thomas, and Carlene, I am Matt. We're excited to be with you again this week, and we'll do it again in about 2 weeks here on Authenticated. Follow Lionel Racing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and use #AuthenticatedFan.